What would you do if one kindness could destroy your life? Some nights change everything. For Ethan Miller, it was the night a desperate woman burst into his garage, begging to use his phone, and the FBI came looking for a missing millionaire. But this story begins hours before. The rain pelted the small Virginia town that Thursday evening, turning Main Street into a blur of streetlights and reflections. Inside Richardson's auto repair, Ethan Miller worked alone, the rhythmic clang of metal against metal echoing off the walls of the garage his father had built 40 years ago. At 52, Ethan had inherited more than tools and a business. He'd inherited a quiet life. No wife to worry about him staying late, no children calling him for help with homework, just the steady rhythm of fixing what was broken, one car at a time. Dad would have loved this piece of work, he muttered to the 1967 Mustang he was restoring. Its red paint gleamed under the fluorescent lights, the only bright thing in his otherwise grey world. His father had dreamed of seeing this car finished before his heart attack 5 years ago. Now Ethan worked on it in the evenings, the radio playing old country songs that reminded him of better days. The weather forecast had called for heavy rain, but nothing like this tempest that suddenly transformed his shop's front door into a gateway of chaos. She was soaked through, her long dark hair plastered to her face, expensive clothes. Ethan recognized designer labels even through the deluge, ruined by the downpour. Her shoes left expensive puddles on his concrete floor. But it was her eyes that stopped Ethan's heart, wild with fear, darting around like a cornered animal he'd once found in his garage years ago. "Please," she gasped, water dripping everywhere, creating a small river across his workspace. "I need to use your phone as it's an emergency." Her voice was educated, refined, nothing like the usual customers who frequented his shop. Ethan hesitated, tightening his grip on the wrench in his calloused hand. In his 15 years running the shop, he'd seen desperate people before, folks who couldn't afford repairs, teenagers trying to hide fender benders from their parents, even the occasional person running from the law. But this was different. This woman didn't belong in his blue-collar world, and she looked like she was running from death itself. "The payphone outside's been broken for weeks," he said slowly, setting down his tools. "Lightning struck it during that last storm. My office phone's that way." He gestured toward the cluttered back room where his father's old desk still held more memories than paperwork. She didn't thank him, just rushed to the back room where his cluttered desk held the shop's only landline, an old rotary phone he'd kept for its reliability. Through the thin walls, Ethan could hear her whispered conversation, each word trembling with urgency. "It's Claire. I'm safe for now. No, don't call the number we discussed. Please, just..." The line went dead, cut off by either the storm or something more sinister. When she emerged, her hands trembled so violently she could barely grip her designer purse. "Thank you," she managed, her voice breaking. "You've been incredibly kind." The words sounded like they were costing her something precious. She turned to leave, then hesitated, pulling out an embroidered handkerchief from her purse. It was exquisite. Irish linen, Ethan guessed, with fine embroidery work that must have taken hours. In the corner, worked in elegant script, were initials, C.R.D. "Take this," she pressed it into his oil-stained hands. As a token of gratitude, her touch lingered just long enough for him to feel how cold her fingers were. Before Ethan could protest, she vanished into the storm, leaving behind only questions and a faint scent of expensive perfume mixed with rain. Outside, he heard a car engine start, something foreign, probably European. He stood there for a long moment, the handkerchief weighing heavily in his pocket, wondering what storm he'd just stepped into. 2 days passed without incident. Ethan found himself checking the front window between customers, the handkerchief tucked safely in his pocket. He'd almost convinced himself it was just another strange encounter, the kind of story the guys at the diner would enjoy. When the black SUVs pulled up Friday afternoon, Ethan Miller. The first agent showed her badge, FBI. Behind her, a familiar face stepped out of the rain. Same expensive suit, different weather. "This is Special Agent Jennifer Walsh, and that's Agent Ray Chen," she introduced professionally. "We need to speak with you about a missing persons case." In his office, surrounded by scattered invoices and old calendars, including one from 1982 that he'd never bothered to take down, Agent Walsh slid a photograph across his desk. "Have you seen this woman? It was her... Claire. But in this photo, she wore designer clothes and a confident smile, standing next to a tall silver-haired man in what looked like a magazine spread. The caption read, 'Claire Rose DeLuca, missing millionaire's wife under investigation for financial crimes.' Her name's Claire Rose DeLuca," Agent Chen explained, pulling out a notepad. "Wife of tech mogul Charles DeLuca. She's been missing for 3 months. The media believes she's involved in embezzlement and money laundering schemes totaling over $50 million. Did she come here?" Ethan studied the photo again. Those eyes, haunted in his shop, vibrant here. "I might have seen her," he admitted carefully, mindful of his father's advice. "Always be helpful but never be hasty." "When? What did she want?" Walsh pressed, leaning forward. "Her perfume, something sharp and professional, cut through the garage smells of oil and metal. Thursday night around 7, she needed to use the phone, said it was an emergency. Storm was pretty bad." The agents exchanged looks. "Did she say where she was going? Who she called? How long she was here?" Ethan shook his head, though the handkerchief in his pocket suddenly felt like evidence. "Maybe 10 minutes total. She was scared, kept looking over her shoulder, thanked me and left." "Did she mention anyone? Her husband? Family? Business associates?" Chen continued, scribbling notes. "No, nothing like that. Just used the phone and left." "If you hear from her again, call us immediately," Walsh insisted, handing him a card that read Anti-Corruption Task Force. "This woman is dangerous. There's a manhunt across 3 states. She's manipulated a lot of people. The husband's devastated, offering a $250,000 reward for information leading to her location." After they left, Ethan sat in the silence of his shop, torn. Everything in him wanted to cooperate with law enforcement. But those eyes, they weren't the eyes of a criminal. They were the eyes of someone terrified, running from something. Or someone. That night, after closing the garage at 9 as always, Ethan began his own investigation. The security camera above his cash register, installed after a break-in 2 years ago, had caught everything. He spent hours reviewing the grainy footage on his old computer, finally finding what he needed. The number Claire had dialed, visible on screen for just a moment before she turned away. He copied it down carefully. 540-555-3847. A Virginia area code. The next morning, while servicing Mrs. Gibb Peterson's Toyota Camry, a car she'd owned for 12 years and maintained religiously, Ethan casually mentioned the woman who'd come in during the storm. "Sounds like that missing millionaire woman," Mrs. Peterson offered, showing him a newspaper clipping she kept in her purse. "They showed her picture on Channel 7, said she stole $50 million from her husband's company. Can you imagine? And him such a good man, donating to the church and all." But Ethan wasn't convinced. He started asking around town, the bank teller who'd known him since high school, the hardware store owner he'd helped when a tornado hit 10 years back, anyone who might have security footage from Thursday night. Slowly, a trail emerged. Someone matching Claire's description had withdrawn $800 from the ATM on Market Street at 8:30 p.m. The night manager at the 24-hour diner saw her getting coffee around midnight, paid cash, left a $20 tip on a $5 tab. When the FBI returned the following Tuesday, Walsh alone this time, Ethan provided them with this information, carefully omitting the phone number and his own continuing search. The phone number led to a Virginia insurance office, a dead end. But Ethan noticed a pattern in his research. Claire seemed to be moving south, staying near auto repair shops and small motels, places where cash was king and questions were few. Using his network of mechanic friends, men and women who'd known him since his apprentice days at Murphy's garage in Norfolk, Ethan traced her route. Bob in Richmond had seen her getting her car serviced, a silver BMW with Virginia plates. Sue in Norfolk thought someone matching her description asked about brake repairs, paying with crisp $100 bills. 3 weeks after her visit, Ethan found himself driving his pickup truck down Route 50, heading to a small town outside Charleston, West Virginia. The cozy corner diner and bakery sat on a quiet side street. Through the front window, he spotted her. Claire wore different clothes now, simple jeans and a plain t-shirt replacing the designer outfit, and her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. But those eyes were unmistakable. He entered the diner, casually, taking a seat at the counter. The familiar smells of fresh coffee and pie, apple today, reminded him of countless meals eaten alone. When she approached with coffee, recognition flickered across her face, followed immediately by fear. "Just coffee," he said softly. "Black, no sugar." Her hand trembled, pouring it. "That'll be $2.50. The pie's good today if you're hungry." "Keep the change." He slid a 20 across the counter. "It's a beautiful day to explore new towns." She understood. When her shift ended at 2, Ethan was waiting in his truck at the edge of the parking lot, radio playing softly. Johnny. Cash, his favorite driving music. She approached cautiously. "Why did you find me? The reward?" "I needed to know the truth," he said honestly. "The FBI says you're a criminal, but I don't believe them." Claire's laugh was bitter. "Nobody believes the truth anymore. People see what they want to see." She glanced around nervously. "I shouldn't talk to you. For your safety." "I've served in 2 wars, Desert Storm and Afghanistan," Ethan replied. "I can handle myself." "This is different, Ethan. My husband, he's powerful, connected. If he finds out you helped me, then help me understand." "What are you running from?" For a moment, Claire stared at him. This stranger who'd shown kindness on a stormy night and now offered to listen. Something in his weathered face, perhaps, reminded her of trust. "I worked in his company's accounting department when we met," she began slowly, settling into the passenger seat. "I thought Charles was brilliant, charming. We married after 6 months." Her voice hardened. "I found the offshore accounts by accident. Cayman Islands, Switzerland, millions flowing through shell companies. When I confronted him, he threatened my younger sister. She's in college, studying medicine. Why not go to the police? I tried. He's donated to every political campaign in the state." "Has FBI contacts, Agent Walsh? She had dinner at our house 3 months ago. 2 days after I tried to report him to the IRS, my car's brakes failed on the highway. I survived. Barely." The mechanic said the lines had been cut cleanly. Ethan felt a chill. "So you ran." "I staged my disappearance. Moved small amounts of money to accounts he didn't know about. My grandmother's life insurance. An old college savings account. Made it look like I'd stolen millions to throw him off. Better he thinks I'm criminal than desperate." They talked for hours in his truck, Claire's story unfolding like a thriller novel. Her marriage had been a facade. Charles needed the appearance of the perfect tech mogul with the beautiful wife. But behind closed doors, control had turned to surveillance, love to threats. "I've been moving every few days," she admitted. "Using fake names, paying cash, but it's exhausting. And the money won't last forever." "Let me help," Ethan offered. "I know people in every state. Mechanics see everything, hear everything. We can get you somewhere safe." For the first time since that rain-soaked night, Claire's smile held hope. Their alliance began carefully. Ethan returned home but drove back weekly, bringing supplies and information. Claire had rented a tiny apartment above the bakery under the name Sarah Miller, a conscious choice, she admitted, though she wouldn't say why. During one visit, Ethan noticed men in suits at the diner. His mechanic instincts, reading people like reading engine trouble, told him these weren't tourists. "FBI," Claire confirmed later as they walked along the creek behind the town. "They've been here twice. I think they're tracking financial records, but I've been careful. Only cash transactions, or maybe we need to stop running," Ethan suggested. "Fight back?" Claire shook her head violently. "You don't understand his power. He has judges, politicians. Then we need leverage." "Evidence?" That conversation planted a seed. Over the next month, as Ethan and Claire grew closer, not romantically but with the trust of soldiers in a foxhole, they devised a plan. Ethan learned Claire's mother, Elizabeth, lived in Florida. A former investigative journalist who'd won awards for exposing corruption in the 90s, she'd retired after Charles threatened her daughter's livelihood unless she stopped stirring up trouble. "Your mother knows?" Ethan asked during one of their evening walks along the creek. "She tried to warn me. Had files on his business dealings before Charles bought out her newspaper, the Herald Tribune. She still has them, hidden in her house since 2018. A week later, Ethan found himself in Tampa, meeting Elizabeth Rose in her modest bungalow. At 73, she had Claire's eyes and a journalist's sharp mind despite retirement. "I knew you weren't safe," she told. Claire, who'd insisted on coming despite the risks. "I just didn't know how to help without making it worse." Elizabeth produced a box from under loose floorboards, a journalist's treasure trove. Inside, photographs, financial statements, recorded phone calls, 5 years of painstaking documentation. "I was going to publish it all," she explained. "But then Claire called crying, saying Charles threatened to destroy you if I didn't stop. He had photos of you, knew your morning routine, where you got your hair cut." Ethan studied the evidence: shell companies in the Cayman Islands, bribes to building inspectors in 6 states, contracts manipulated. But the smoking gun appeared in a recorded conversation. Charles discussing how to handle Claire permanently if she ever became a problem. "We need to be strategic," Ethan said, his military training kicking in. "Going to corrupt authorities won't work, but modern justice has another path, the court of public opinion." That night, while Claire slept fitfully in the guest room, Ethan sat with Elizabeth planning their media strategy. They would need irrefutable proof, video confirmation from Claire herself. The recording was made in secret. Using Elizabeth's old video camera, surprisingly high quality for its age, Ethan filmed Claire telling her entire story one Sunday morning. The raw emotion, pain, fear, determination captured everything. The threats, the evidence, the 2 years of hidden abuse beneath the veneer of a perfect marriage. "I'm not a victim," Claire said directly to the camera. "I'm a survivor, and I'm ready to fight back." But they needed more. They needed Charles to implicate himself directly. The plan was audacious, born from Ethan's military background and Elizabeth's journalistic cunning. They lured Charles with the promise of evidence disposal, a message purportedly from a corrupt FBI agent offering to destroy Claire's case. For $2 million, Charles took the bait quickly. He agreed to meet at a remote warehouse outside his Virginia headquarters, a building his company owned for storage purposes. Ethan insisted on handling the technical aspects. He'd served with a soldier named Marcus Johnson, who worked covert operations in Afghanistan. Now living in North Carolina and running a private security firm, Marcus helped set up sophisticated recording equipment, cameras disguised as security systems, microphones in fake building supplies. The day arrived cool and grey. Claire, despite protests from both Ethan and her mother, insisted on being nearby. They compromised. She'd wait in a van with Elizabeth, monitored by Marcus from his laptop 3 blocks away. Ethan posed as the FBI agent's associate, using contacts from his military days to obtain a convincing temporary badge. His backstory: he was the courier who'd handled the evidence swap, a man named David Walsh, chosen deliberately to psychologically connect with Agent Walsh's compromised position. When Charles arrived in his black Mercedes S-Class, Ethan's first thought was, how ordinary evil could look. The tech mogul was smaller than his media photos, impeccably dressed in a Tom Ford suit that probably cost more than Ethan's truck. His silver hair was meticulously styled, his manicured hands unmarked by real work. "You have the evidence?" Charles's voice held authority but also anxiety. He kept checking his phone, probably tracking a security detail nearby. "Everything's secured," Ethan replied in the van, pulling out fake evidence bags marked with FBI labels. "But I need assurance. Walk me through your concerns." Charles hesitated, then began outlining his problems. "My wife, she's mentally unstable. Paranoid delusions, honestly. She stole company funds and fabricated crimes to frame me. Jealousy, you understand. What crimes specifically? Money laundering, bribery, complete lies, Charles insisted, his voice rising slightly. I built DeLuca Tech from nothing. Yes, I've made political contributions and international investments, but that's business in America. Ethan pushed harder. The recordings suggest violence, threats. Charles's mask slipped slightly. Protecting one's business sometimes requires unfirm measures. She misunderstood conversation context. Creative accounting isn't criminal, it's smart business. The context of discussing her permanent removal. The mogul's face darkened. I see you've done your homework. How much do you want? Beyond the agreed amount. I want the truth first, Ethan pressed. How far would you go to silence her? Charles stepped closer, confident now. As far as necessary. The authorities work for people like me. They know how the world operates. Elections cost money. Justice requires funding. A woman scorned with lies is simply handled. He smiled coldly. Just like we're handling this conversation. Behind him, two men emerged from his Mercedes. Private security, former military. One had a telltale bulge under his jacket. Kill him, Charles ordered casually. Make it look like a robbery gone wrong. Then find my wife. The warehouse. Lights blazed to life. Windows exploded with camera flashes. Every word recorded. Every threat captured in 4K resolution. Marcus burst through the door with real FBI agents, those from the Federal Corruption Task Force Elizabeth had secretly contacted months before. Behind them came Claire, fury, and a vindication replacing years of fear. Charles DeLuca, you're under arrest, the lead agent announced. For conspiracy to commit murder, attempted bribery of federal officials, wire fraud, money laundering, and multiple counts of financial crimes. As they handcuffed the tech mogul, his composure finally shattered. You can't do this. I run this state. I own these people. His voice cracked. I made you people. Without my donations. Claire stepped forward, no longer the frightened. Woman from the rain. You never owned me. You never will. Charles's security detail dropped their weapons, realizing their fate was sealed. Agent Walsh was notably absent from the arrest team, already under internal investigation. The trial became national news. Charles DeLuca's fall from grace dominated headlines. Tech Titan's web of lies unraveled by gas station owner, and the mechanic who brought down a millionaire. But for Ethan, the attention felt foreign. He returned to his garage to the familiar rhythm of repair work, though everything had changed. Reporters camped outside for weeks. Local news stations wanted interviews. The national networks offered substantial payments for exclusive rights. Claire testified with quiet strength, the videos and Elizabeth's documentation providing undeniable proof. The FBI's internal investigation revealed not just Walsh, but 3 other agents on Charles's payroll. Their corruption had enabled years of financial crimes, affecting hundreds of small businesses Charles had bankrupted through illegal bidding practices. 6 months after starting his search, Ethan sat in his garage one morning when familiar footsteps approached. Claire wore confidence now instead of fear, her bearing straight and sure. The transformation was remarkable, the same person, but unburdened by secrets. I thought I'd find you here, she said, running her fingers along the restored Mustang. Pretty. Your father would be proud. Thanks, and I hear you're running your mother's old newspaper. Buying it back, actually. DeLuca Tech's legitimate assets were substantial. The honest parts of his business. With proper management, they're thriving. And with the legitimate inheritance I finally gained access to, she smiled wryly. Turns out, Charles had offshore. Accounts hidden from me too. 8 million in Switzerland, supposedly for our children's education. We never had children. They talked easily now, the shared ordeal having forged a unique bond. Claire had moved to a small house in Virginia, not in Ethan's town, but close enough for visits. She'd started therapy, addressing not just the trauma of her marriage, but childhood issues that had made her vulnerable to Charles's manipulation. I wanted to return this, she said, pulling out the embroidered handkerchief. It was pristine now, professionally cleaned and pressed. And to give you this, she handed him an envelope. Inside was a check, more money than Ethan had seen in his life, enough to expand the garage, hire proper help, maybe even restore classic cars full-time. "I can't accept this," he protested immediately. "It's not charity," Claire insisted. "It's for services rendered, private investigation, protection services," and she paused, choosing words carefully. "Showing a stranger that kindness still exists in the world." Ethan hesitated, then reached for his desk drawer. Inside lay the handkerchief she'd given him that rainy night, the one he'd kept as a reminder of why he'd chosen to help. "Fair trade?" he offered. They each took the other's handkerchief, a gesture symbolic of their journey. 1 year later, Ethan's garage had expanded. 3 new mechanics worked alongside him, including a former student from the technical college who reminded him of his younger self. Business boomed, partly due to his brief notoriety, but mostly because word spread about honest work and fair prices. The old Mustang was finally finished, gleaming red in the showroom he'd added. Sometimes Ethan would sit in it after hours, radio playing, and think about all the twists his simple life had taken. Claire visited monthly, always on Sundays after services at the small church she'd started attending. Her newspaper flourished, exposing corruption while giving voice to the voiceless. She'd hired her mother as senior editor, and Elizabeth's investigative instincts proved as sharp as ever. The romantic questions persisted, from the locals, from the occasional journalist who still called. But both Ethan and Claire understood. Their bond transcended simple categorization. They were war buddies in life's battle against corruption, connected by shared trauma and mutual trust. She never spoke of romantic entanglements. The trauma of her marriage would need more time to heal. But friendship bloomed. They shared dinners at the local diner, the same booth where Clara worked, who always smiled knowingly. Elizabeth visited sometimes too, delighting in watching these 2 unlikely allies laugh over coffee. One Sunday afternoon, a year after the trial, Claire arrived at the garage carrying a book. The title made Ethan laugh. "The Stranger in the Ice Storm: How One Act of Kindness Unraveled a Multi-million-dollar Conspiracy." "I wrote this," she said simply, placing the hardcover in his hands. "With help from Mom." Publishers fought over it. The dedication read, "To Ethan Miller, who answered a stranger's call for help and changed the course of justice itself. Proof that heroes don't need perfect lives, just good hearts." Ethan opened to a random page. Sitting in his truck that afternoon, I realized something profound. This man, this stranger, had chosen to see me as human when most would have seen only trouble. He'd chosen courage over convenience, truth over reward. In that choice lay the seeds of everything that followed. "I hope I got the details right," Claire said softly. "You got what matters right," Ethan assured her. Later, after Claire left, Ethan hung a framed copy of the dedication beside his father's old workbench. Both handkerchiefs, hers and his, sat in a shadow box nearby, tangible reminders of a night that proved small kindnesses could unravel kingdoms of corruption. Outside, the first drops of rain began to fall, just like that Thursday evening a lifetime ago. But this time, when the bell above his door chimed, Ethan looked up with anticipation rather than wariness. Now he knew. Strangers might be angels in disguise, and sometimes answering their call could save more than one life. The rain continued to fall, washing the world clean for another day. In the corner of the garage, the red Mustang waited patiently, a symbol of patience, restoration, and the belief that even broken things could be made beautiful again. And Ethan Miller. He just kept fixing what was broken, one car and occasionally one life at a time.